So, interest of time, quickly I will introduce Rajeev. I know that Rajeev is pretty well known in IT industry. However, I'll take Rajiv's profile through. Rajeev was the global WFM head of DXC. Prior to that, he was a global head of WFM of Wipro Technologies. Is started his career with the manufacturing industries, the L&T, and then Tech Mahindra, and then G. That's around close to 3 decades of experience. And Rajeev is known for global resource management, optimization, cost optimization, building innovative systems, designing policies, processes, building center of excellence, delivery management, business operations, business continuity management, and strategic management. So today, Rajeev is going to moderate the panel discussion 3 on workforce management, business continuity management post-COVID. Very interesting subject. All are eager to listen to the moderator and also esteemed panelists. For introducing panelists, I would leave it to Rajeev. Rajeev, thank you so much, and welcome all the panelists. Over to you.
Thanks, Shiva. Thanks for proving that I'm getting older. Thank you. And really appreciate the time and the opportunity to come here on the forum on behalf of all the panelists as well as the attendees. I first like to thank the GWFM forum for giving us the opportunity to share our thoughts. Guys, I don't work anywhere anymore. Right? I'm a startup investor and I help companies now in a different space of trying to really build tech solutions, possibly looking into areas which are very close to my heart, which is increasing the employability as well as the employment levels in the country. Right? That's what they do. And as we spend time with the startups in the tech space and the non-tech space, I realize that different countries are really dealing with a very big problem. Workforce management has deep correlations on employability of employees, of employabilities of people, as well as the employment of people, and that's a big issue which is getting developed across nations to work through. We're doing our small piece of part, but I think there's a large problem which is getting developed across the globe. Thank you for all the esteemed panelists who are there. I will take a liberty of requesting you guys to introduce yourself. Let's start with possibly Vasu, if you can just introduce yourself, and then we can go ahead with other members too.
Sure. Thank you, Rajeev. Pleasure to be interacting with all of the panelists. Had my introduction earlier in one of the other discussions, but for those of you who joined just now, I'm Vasudev. You can call me Vasu. I'm an IT service delivery leader, and with a passion for WFM, people management. So that's what I do, and looking forward to learn from all the team panelists. Thank you.
Thanks, Vasu. Manish, can you be the next?
Manish,
Hi,
still can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, Manish. Now we can hear you. Yeah.
Hi, Rajeev. Hi, Vasu. Hi, everybody. So my name is Manish Saxsena. I work with Firstsource Limited, and I have been working with them for the last 7 years. I have around 25 years of experience with manufacturing, and then with operations and quality. So here to learn collectively. Great sessions since morning. I have a lot of learning today.
Thanks, Manish. Can we go ahead with
Hi everyone, this is Deepak Jain. This is my third session for the day, so hopefully I've introduced twice. We'll do the third time. And Rajeev, happy to be part of the panel with you again. Good to meet virtually and see. I work for Amazon and I manage their Asia Pacific WFM, and have been learning, sharing my thoughts with you all, and will continue to do so. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Deepak. And the old colleague, Narang.
Rajeev, how are you doing? Rajeev, so I'm right now with PwC, leading workforce planning and talent acquisition for PwC in India. Prior, like Rajeev said, I had an opportunity to work with him. We work together in DXC. I've been in the human capital space for about roughly 22 years right now, largely in the HR, talent acquisition, workforce planning, and a lot of systems analytics space. Happy to learn from, looking forward to learn from all of you in your experiences and looking for a good conversation.
Thank you.
Rajeev, sorry to interrupt. And we have Radhika from KPMG. This window takes only 6 people. I think one of them can go unmute the video so that we can add her.
Yeah, if you want, I can go back.
Radhika, you could come up now.
Not me.
Hi.
Okay.
Finally, it's working.
Okay. Fantastic.
Right.
Hey, Radhika. Yeah.
Hi, Rajeev.
Radhika,
Great to see you.
To the team. Hi.
You were breaking.
Radhika, can you introduce yourself to the team?
Yeah, sure. So this is Radhika from KPMG. I lead the resource management function for KPMG India. And so, this is, as you know, KPMG is a professional services firm, so it covers all various different kinds of businesses. I come with very similar experience earlier in a Big Four as well, but my overall experience has been about almost 19 plus years actually, but in resource management it's been since 2004, so almost 15-16 years, so something like that. So yeah, that's how it is.
Thanks, Radhika. Prashant, did I miss you?
No worries. Obviously we should have the lady first. So hi everybody, this is Prashant, and I have been a part of Accenture since the last 3 years. Prior to this, was working with Wipro for a short time, Cital and Minix and Nipuna before. One of the panelists here used to be my client. So there. I've been in workforce for the last 17 years, and I've grown the ranks right from TA level to the leadership roles now. So happy to be a part of this panel.
Thank you, so, guys, we have a very interesting subject. I don't want to go and dwell deeper into, COVID and possibly whether the vaccine is going to come out. I'm sure, all of us are reading a lot about that in the media, and all of us are possibly really feeling a pain of, when will life get normal, right? And how quickly can we get back into possibly doing a normal life, right? In this session, I would really push you a bit more to do some crystal gazing of future. Before I do that, let's, and I'm sure some of you may have also shared these kind of conversations in your last discussions for the help of all those people who would have joined now, or some of you who would have been the first panel. It's important to just take a gauge back that with this unprecedented event which has happened, right? Specifically for your industry, your company at large, you may choose not to speak much about your company, keeping the privacy in mind, but keeping industry in place, right? How bad was bad, right? And was it bad? Was it an opportunity to grow in business, right? And what are the top few challenges you faced, as well as what did your teams do to really possibly either manage the bad as bad, right, or to manage the opportunity which it created for few industries which possibly flourished during this during this episode, or we continue to do that, right? So maybe we can start with Radhika. Consulting business, different in kind. People were used to doing a lot of face-to-face touch times with clients. How are you guys sensing it? And how do you guys manage the last few months, if I can go back?
Yeah, so obviously to begin with, it was pretty unprecedented and came as a shocker to everybody. But and frankly, what we thought how bad it would be, it was better than that. It was actually reasonably better than that. One quick thing that happened within the firm was that everybody huddled together to collaborate, which I think was absolute need of the hour. It was not even asked. It just came naturally. So all the teams got together and everybody was like, how can we help to try and get business back to normal? So obviously it will not be normal like what we understood of normal as pre-COVID times. But at the same time, when we compare our utilizations to the previous year, our difference, initially there was a drop obviously, but then slowly when we started getting back to work and started getting, not back to work as in physically back to work, but picking up things from where we left, it wasn't so bad. So our utils were pretty okay. The difference was just 5 to 7% to begin with. So, and in some weeks we are having a week-to-week comparison, so some weeks was actually almost there, the same util or probably 1 or 2% higher. There were a lot of steps we took, obviously, and in fact, if KPMG is selling IT work or technology work, in terms of the real IT support that we have, I mean, we do technology consulting for sure, but the IT support that we internally have, we would be making a lot more money. The phenomenal work our IT did was, oh my God, and it just kicked the ball out of the park for sure. Obviously, everything was dependent on technology. There was a lot of upgradation. There was suddenly people sitting in the weirdest of places had to be connected, onboarded virtually, sent laptop, and everybody had a laptop issue. Ye nahi ho raha hai, wo nahi ho raha hai, this is happening, and how they managed to do it. And admin and IT, my God, it was I mean, mostly these are people who are usually in the background, and they're like, they're doing their daily jobs, and it's the client service who's mostly facing people. But these people were the front floor, and they were really, really working 24/7 to get everybody comfortable, to make sure that there was no issues and it was business continuity like usual. So I think it was not so bad. It was pretty okay for us to begin with. Yeah.
You want to PwC, similar kind of industry. Usually early in the morning when you go down somewhere, the first set of people you find in the airline queue is all the consultants going and meeting clients. This time, there were no airlines.
I was talking to a lot of my business leaders, and they are so weird, saying, I've not seen an airport in 3 months. I've not sat in an airplane for 3 months. I've not seen a customer face to face, and they're getting used to it. But just going back to what Radhika was saying, right? It was a pleasant surprise that we really thought the consulting will take a lot of hit. But interestingly, when we spoke back to the business, we spoke to the consultants on the floor. I mean, the initial few weeks, there's a little bit of adjustment that people do, and they know they do a little bit of tweaking and stuff like that. And we kind of helped them with that, right? From a resource management standpoint, from a workforce enablement standpoint, we rolled out a couple of policies, short-term, interim, to enable work from home a little bit more, including some sort of things like, hey, we'll help you set up your home office. You may not even have a proper chair at home to be able to sit and work for the entire day, right? So stuff like that's happened. But interestingly, again, like what Radhika was saying, when we started, we started monitoring utilization a little bit more. It's an indicator of what's going on. And we found out that actually, after about 3 weeks or so, sometimes starting mid-April, utilization was actually going up as compared to the last year for some of the practices where we historically thought Q1 will be lower. And productivity went up, right? We saw people happily working for about 12 hours a day, whereas they would even complain to work for about 8 or 9 hours a day because they had to travel 4 or 5 hours, or some, people like in Bangalore and Delhi and all those places, they spend a hell of a lot of time traveling. That's cut out. They were more than happy to sit and kind of contribute work. A lot of thought leadership articles came out. A lot of other value work came out of the workforce, right? It was very interesting to see that coming out, right? And that really gave us a lot of it gave us a lot of new things to do from a workforce planning standpoint. How can we change our strategy around the entire workforce planning? We moved away from looking at just managing resources to be able to actually say, hey, some of these values are coming in. How can it go and impact your business strategy? And so how can you get back to the market or create value out of this market a lot more better? So the last 3 months, it's very interesting that our workforce strategy has now inputted business. It's normally a lot way other way around, right? You have a business strategy and then you try and take a workforce strategy to match that business strategy. But in the last 3 months, we've done a lot of things. The workforce has created a lot of these things. We've been able to go and influence business strategy and some of the go-to-market strategies and all that stuff, right? And that's a very interesting transition, also very interesting learning for the last, I would say, roughly 12 weeks, 8 to 12 weeks.
Beautiful. It's really surprising to hear that from a consulting industry people, right? Usually one would believe that they would have got badly hit. They didn't meet the clients. Customers are pretty used to taking advices only face-to-face. Boardroom connects cannot be done online, right? And I think, which both, you and Radhika are reflecting, is pretty refreshing from one side and is worrying for the airlines. I don't think that they'll get any tickets from the consultant.
Yeah, and the hotel industry as well.
Yeah, and how was it for you? Looks like, I'm sure, what our expectation would be that Amazon would have been really minting, a lot of larger business. Possibly when we all tried logging into Amazon, he told us that the delivery is delayed for the next few days.
Yeah.
So, dependent on it, right? How did you find it, Deepak?
Well, Rajeev, it was, I think, it was a big learning experience, for all of us. And when I say all of us, I'm including not only WFM operations, senior management. For all of us, it was a learning experience because there is no precedence to it. We didn't know how to handle it, how to deal with it, how bad it can become. And specifically when it is to do with the employee safety and well-being, that's of paramount importance to us as an organization. And then comes the customer, and and probably this is the first time wherein we had to really learn fast how to handle this. And a lot of things were challenged. Can we really kind of be available to customer or not, or with India situation only got more complex. You have red zones, you have orange zones, green zones, and every day you have a guideline changing. And you decide that okay, shall we move fast or we wait? It's basically the decision making is becoming every day. Probably morning you have one way of operation. By the time you hit evening, then plan has changed. And it really put a lot of pressure on obviously all of us to kind of sail it through. But I think what doesn't kill you makes you only stronger. So I think we have become much better now with respect to handling these scenarios. Now I can say with confidence that and I was talking about this in my previous note, that execution has become so important now, that actually now the strategy is that can we be so good at execution that we can take care of volatility with respect to planning. And I think that's the learning, that how can we have execution framework so strong and so agile and nimble at the same point of time that it can cater to the volatility. Because volatility we don't have much control on. What we have control on is what we can execute. So I think that was a big learning. Plus the learning was with respect to how do we challenge the situation. We basically challenge each and everything. Whatever we had norms as set, we challenge each and every norm that okay, is it relevant? Is it kind of meeting my end objective? And is it helping me move fast or not? And whether it kind of fits into the overall scheme of things. I think those were the decision points which decided that which direction we move, how fast we move, whether we should move or not. And now I think 4 months into this, and we have mastered the art of learning, living with it, and basically we can tame the animal now.
Yeah. What I was hearing, pardon my ignorance about how much online retail works for the international market, but for the Indian market, it was almost like not more than 3% of the markets get covered. We will cover the tier 2, tier 3 cities and and all through online retail, right? And I'm sure this was the first time where the pressure was largely from the government onto the online retailers that you need to supply goods, because it was very reverse. It's not only business. It was like a social responsibility on the online retail companies to be able to do business in places where they're not even planning to be in, right? I'm sure that would have created some kind of hassle and immediate fast agile planning and execution. Would you be willing to share with the crowd here that how did you guys literally gear up so quickly to move around onto certain things?
Actually, I don't have much insight into the delivery side of the network, hence I can't comment on it. And even if I had, I probably could not have been able to share in this forum. But to be honest, I don't have much insight into the delivery side of the network, because ours was more that how do we handle the incoming traffic of when customers are reaching to us. But I'm sure huge work would have happened on the side of the supply chain side, which is the last mile delivery, to ensure that all that happened. Because Amazon would have made that happen.
Sure. Thank you. Just moving on to Manish. How did you guys see the last few months in your business, and some key challenges, and how did you overcome that?
So since the last week of March, it has been really chaotic. So most of the time, the chaos was only coming in from one planning function to another planning function. So your customer failed to plan, and as a third-party service provider, you don't have enough time to hire, train, and bring in people and meet the demand, and you are sorting out those challenges. For the first time, I think the great learning has been for us. It was chaos at both the end. It was demand side chaos. It was supply side chaos. It was lockdown. You have to set up overnight work from home setups, send people, send machines, send equipment, work with government agencies. I think that was one critical aspect. Work with government agencies to get passes, navigate through bureaucracy, which was pretty helpful. Surprisingly, it was not as difficult as we would have assumed. But yes, it was. And the best thing in this was, like everybody else was saying, that the plan was having a very short shelf life. So as I would say it, we would do scenario 1, scenario 2, scenario 3. By the time you are doing scenario 3, things are changing. Go back to scenario 1, again rerun the plan and do things. Things are changing dynamically. Employees wanting to work but can't work because they are trapped into zones, can't come. Equipments are not reaching there. So yeah, it was pretty much, I would say, a lot of chaos, a lot of learning, lot of order that came in chaos. I think reaction times, as Radhika was saying, was something which surprised. What organizations can do in hour of need, especially IT and admin functions. The sets that we sell through our employee engagement teams. The kind of energy people showed, and personal responsibility that people took, right from the last employee who was willing to work and was chasing for his equipment not getting delivered to his home, to an admin guy who is trying to figure out how he will get the required passes and ensure that the cabs can go to the last mile and the last guy's home, deliver equipment, set up internet connections where people don't have internet connections, so on and so forth. So yeah, lot of learnings. And good thing is, I think, apart from first 10 days where the things were getting, constantly changing, but everybody, right from clients to employees, everybody is having a sense of achievement, sense of success, that yes, we navigated a very tough environment pretty successfully.
Thanks, Manish. And I think this is very heartening to hear, at least from the 4 panelists that we talked till now, that the gloom which you read on the media or on the newspaper, right? The country has an ability to overcome that, right, and go towards the positive side.
Absolutely.
Positive stuff. Right? Otherwise, I think people are only talking about about COVID and the pains and the problems because of that. But I think the country is literally, and I'm sure that from what you're representing, right, the organizations have been able to really scale much more better. And moving on to Prashant today, I think Prashant, your organization was the first organization to declare results, which declared saying during the peak period of COVID, right, their revenues did not fall. In fact, they grew. Right? And the guidances have also been much more stronger. In fact, the whole industry has been talking about it, saying they, the quarter they follow, I think it is the quarter of March, April, and May, which was the peak time of COVID, right? And the results were far surprising because they were the most impacted portion globally at that point in time. Prashant, if you can just share, how did it go for you?
Yeah, and I very true. And I think our company was among the first ones to learn from the situation and start mobilizing people ahead of time. I remember very well, by mid-February or so, we were already planning for a larger pandemic. even in countries like India, where the government was still not talking about it. So yes, as in planning was the key. But then, having said that, the kind of chaos that the other panelists have said was there in the beginning, and to the tune that these days we don't call it as BAU, as business as usual. We call it as business as unusual, because that's the way it worked for us. And as Deepak said, right, the plans are constantly changing multiple times in a day. But then that's how we've adapted to it. We have learned from it. We have put in systems to address those changes and adapt. So there's always a plan 1, plan 2, plan 3 in place, and we constantly keep making those tweaks. So yes, it's been a great journey for us, and towards the end of it, we've just come stronger, and we hope to see our efficiency just grow from here.
Prashant, did the WFM teams in the organization, scale up much better than what they call it as business as usual to stepping up into something called business as unusual, right? And did you see a new normal getting formed with WFM guys, of not trying to literally do only the tactical regular stuff, but moving upward and getting much more closer to the business and possibly maybe getting a bit respected by the business also a bit more?
Yeah, and I would second that. Actually, the thing is, the skills that a WFM team possesses, right? Planning ahead of time, coordinating well between various departments. So in a BCP situation, previously also, right, we would handle outages, and we know how to handle BCP situations. So in a situation like this, it was very natural for the organization to kind of rely on us. And of course, during this time, we tend to be more valuable. Having said that, our team was actually stepping up in a lot of things, coordinating assets, whatnot, actually, making sure we have the right addresses of people. So just, the basics, but then at a faster and a fast changing level. So yes, as you rightly said, we've been more valued during this time. And even as we move further, the analytics that we bring into the business is also adding more value to it. So I think this is the right time to be a part of the WFM team.
Yeah, because for the last many years we all heard from a lot of WFM professionals that we were pushed into this job. I think I don't get too much respected. HR gets the higher expectation respected on the company, or a sales get a higher respect for the company. My job is not something which is valued a lot, right? And and I do a lot of hard work, right? These are kind of connotations which I used to hear from people. And what I hear from you is that there is a sense of respect getting built up between a business and workforce management to be able to orchestrate through this crisis a bit more better. I'm sure they'll come out much more better on that.
Absolutely.
I'm not able to see Vasu. Vasu is not. We have of the screen, right? But Vasu, in a toss.
I go off camera and let Vasu come back in.
No, that's fine. That's fine. So it's COVID. So if I'm not seen, I'll be heard. Don't worry.
Yeah. So how did you see a sense of it? And I'm going through your profile, I get a sense that you have done both the workforce management possibly closely with you. You're more on the delivery side, right? And
Yeah.
How did you see a challenge also? And how did you candidly did WFM as a group stand up to do things better?
No, absolutely. I think as I said, right. I think this situation has probably, I would say, enhanced and made people realize the value of the backend teams, right? Be it admin and as Radhika mentioned earlier, I think the administration team, the technical support group, and the HR teams, and even the WFM teams. I think the business groups really understood the value that some of these functions, bring to the table. Not only that, I think even from a business model standpoint, Rajeev, some of the offshore development IT service delivery teams who were probably taken for granted for years, right? Without much due and credit given to the value they bring in, I think the customers also realized when suddenly the IT support productivity went up, the IT application management portfolios are all working fine. And when they themselves are battling through this, pandemic, now it started and it made them realize as to the real value that some of these non-visible teams bring to the table. So I think it's been a sense of a revolution, I think, for a lot of the groups. And I think, as Prashant rightly put, I think it's probably the right time and probably a excellent, I would say, opportunity for groups like WFM to partner with business, because we are the teams are more heard, and the value suggestions are more valued. I think it's the right time for WFM groups and function to partner in transforming the overall organization. That's how I see it, Rajeev.
Thanks, Vasu, and thanks for an endorsement coming from possibly non-WFM leaders also walking into that place, because this, listening to all this last 10, 15 years which I did, just came out a lot of closet with people saying, I don't know what my career path is, nobody likes me. I'm doing a lot of data crunching, but managers use it and then thank you. They don't even thank you for that, right? So those are kind of stuff professionals to hear that this is the time where workforce management really comes into the heart of my stuff. I did my apologies of not introducing Jay. I just now realized that he's also there. And Jay is a vice president from Sutherland. Jay, are you here? Are you listening to me?
Jay is not able to join due to some reason. I'm in chat with him in WhatsApp. I'm in chat with him in WhatsApp.
He joined, and I didn't want to miss him out in the panel. So let's pivot to a bit of a crystal gazing onto what's going on in the future. Someday this doom has to end, possibly, and what is your thinking about going further, right? Whatever I've spoken to a lot of people, I've been sensing 3 stages of people, right? One set of companies which are really devastated, seriously devastated, and it would be honest to say that there are a lot of activities which they're doing, are not very positive. Right, it's not very positive from an emotional perspective, but they're forced to take some actions which are possibly not very pleasing to talk upon. Right? But that's part of living a business, right? In terms of working a business out. The second set of people, extreme places, as we said, which are possibly which are looking at very new models coming in the span of next few months, and they're using this time to really create an opportunity window for themselves in the future. Possibly create a new way of working, which would nowhere be nearer to what we used to work earlier. Right? And obviously, there's a third set of organizations which are still waiting and watching each other and trying to figure out, saying that, okay, let this time pass and then I'll sit and decide what I'm supposed to do. The situation is pretty confused, and they have their other issues. Right? So keeping that view in mind, I think it's important for the group to, share with people that what has been their thinking. What are you guys seeing in the market for yourself, and what's your advice to the professionals in terms of how you move it? Maybe this time we can start, maybe with Vasu. Vasu, if you can start first. What's your view on what's happening with the IT industry and what people are doing?
Yeah, sure. I think one of the biggest change that people are really looking at is geography doesn't matter, right? So it could be a person in Europe who could be supporting a transformation initiative that is primarily located in North America, and so on and so forth. I think that's one thing that's really catching up. Second thing that's also catching up is the whole business model that we've had so far, where the whole solutioning and essentially the value proposition, especially for many of the deals, would be around cost arbitrage, right? I think that needs to be really rethought of, right? We need to rethink about how we really, create a value for a solution. It has to be real value, instead of, as opposed to, just cost arbitrage. I could have a cloud developer in India who could be charged exorbitantly just by the sheer value the person brings to the table, right? And not be influenced by the location the person belongs to. I think some of these radical ideas need to be thought through, and new business models, operating models are bound to emerge. And I think for the WFM team, we need to encourage the business in not only finding the right talent, encouraging people across the board, right? For example, the location is a big thing, right? For WFM resource management groups. I need a person here. I need a person there, right? Would the person be able to relocate? The first question that is getting asked in the traditional model, right? And I'm sure once we get out of this current crisis situation, there would be a tendency to go back to that same old tendencies, right? Maybe the customer will demand them and we'll fall in line, right? I think it's upon the WFM group to collaborate with the business leaders on the ground, sales teams, the engagement teams, and help them come up with newer value proposition where it could be somebody in Netherlands traveling for a month for, let's say, user story discussions and then going back and working from home. So newer ways of working, that will require newer pricing models, debunking some of the old, pricing solutions we had in the backend. And then it will really be a game changer. And our WFM group really has a great role in this.
So you're shaking the boat, you're shaking the industry big time. Right? Earlier, this whole industry has been established in a term called billing rate, and billing rate is equal to basically cost plus some margin. You calculate whatever you want, right? and the compensation mechanism, between some of the high-cost countries versus a low-cost country has a huge amount of arbitrage. For 75 rupees dollar trading today, or a $76 trading today, with no minimum wage laws in countries like India, or very meager wage laws in countries like India, you're really shaking the boat when you and rightly so, because if the people are going to work from home until they're on the time zone, whatever they are onto, how does it really matter whether the person is of what origin, and why should a client pay a higher billing rate? And on that topic, I'll switch this time to Radhika. Radhika, do you see this as a threat getting around, or do you see it as an opportunity getting around? And would your consultants' billing rates will also get impacted in life? Like, how do you see that as a change in the business?
So I think it's a mixed bag, to be honest, in a business like ours, where I mean, it's the first time that we were able to do a lot of things that we thought we can never do without physically being present. There's a lot of documentation we have to maintain and stuff. So it's the first time that we didn't need to sign anything. There was no physical paper, and there was no real reliance on that. But at the same time, I think in the near future, it's more or less going to be anybody can be wherever and for a short duration come and all that. And our firm is also geared up for that. There's a lot of planning which has gone in. Similarly for clients also, and similarly for WFM. Now, if I speak more for WFM, we've also tried to now get up to different business models, and we are, and I will also be discussing that in detail in my next session. But so there are various different models that we've been trying to adapt, and it's like I said, it's a mixed bag because one size doesn't fit all in a professional services firm where all businesses are so different. But largely, we realized that even I remember my co telling me, I haven't signed a single document in 3 months. That means everything can work without me signing a document, right? So it wasn't. I mean, I won't say that it's not going to happen. I won't say that people will never return and it's going to be like this for good. People will want to return more than they have to return, because I think there is that connect, which I still remember one of my team members told me, please let me come back. I'll have issues in my family life otherwise, so let me come back. But it's just like, we were discussing of how maybe I told my team for the whole year you can work from home, and some people I told my team that permanently you can work from home. I gave up a few seats from my office because I didn't need so much, and I said, see, it doesn't matter when you come, you can sit anywhere because you don't have to have a dedicated infrastructure anymore. But at the same time, business-wise, we re-evaluated a lot of skills. We re-emphasized on various things like internal trainings, and we also came up with a very interesting concept of internal gig. So you must have obviously heard tons of stories about gigs, and from morning we're talking about gig economy and stuff. But what we started doing, and we enhanced our tool for it as well, that we actually have something called as My Gig, which is an internal thing where we opened up demands which were originally not visible to all employees. So if there were few opportunities which we were servicing for one group, they were not necessarily visible to everybody. Only the WFM team was actually handling and sourcing them. But we opened it up for everybody. We made it a voluntary thing that you can actually volunteer and say, you know what, I have some availability, I have some interest, or I'd like to upskill or reskill myself and like to apply for it. And then that person, even if there was no matching demand, there was that option to submit an interest. I am interested in something like this. If something like this comes up, please let me know. So an internal within the firm gig for shorter durations, for longer durations, depending on what works for who. But it's mostly going to be work from home for foreseeable future. But we have reopened our offices, and we have now a very detailed plan, and it's really exhaustive, detailed planning with an app. And there's a survey, we have a bot survey which we have to fill every week, and it's a mandatory thing that automatically comes to us. We don't have to go fill it, which tells us exactly, we have to answer like 10 questions where, have you been tested, not tested, have you come in touch, which exact location are you in, the pin code, the city. So what we did is this information, selected information, which is not confidential, we got hand of it, but we actually used it to see if we can leverage the person sitting in that city instead of saying, oh sorry, now how do I get that work done? Because certain jobs, like maybe a stock count kind of a thing, required you to physically go and check inventory, right, or something like that. So what we did is we actually had this list of everybody, and this was an automated thing, not manual, because otherwise it would keep changing and stuff. We took a list of that. We checked if somebody's sitting in, say, a far off rural area in some city, internal area, and to send somebody from here, I mean, everything was locked down, you couldn't send anybody. So we used a lot of such people staying close by. We made sure that we provided enough safety in terms of transport, in terms of other safety mechanics, and made that person, if absolutely required, to physically get that thing done for a day or two or whatever. And then we trained them, obviously, because they would need to have some training, because they will not belong to that particular group, right? They may not have that skill. But for things which were not so niche, for things which were generic, everybody was willing to do. That was the best part, that even the employee was willing to do that. Sure, I mean, if I can sit here and do something, why not? So that was, it was amazing collaboration. That is one thing that really came out. Yeah.
Great. Deepak, a question quickly to you. You guys have been working a lot on processes which are becoming almost like touchless, right, in terms of in light of this whole effect, whatever is going on. What do you see as as change in the skill sets for the WFM professional? The morals, the methods of working, right? What's your thought process in terms of how this whole remote working is going to lead to? I'm sure people are partially used to it, but now it's becoming too active, right? How does it all, become an impact onto the change of the skill sets of the professionals itself to be able to manage this whole thing out, possibly get evaluated well with their managers, right? And also maintain a morale. India is not still used to a very work from home kind of a culture, right? If I wouldn't have locked up this door, my baby would have been running around me there at this moment of time, right? So what are you guys thinking, and what are you guys doing in this particular space?
So Rajeev, like you mentioned that India as a country is not used to work from home, and so do Indians, and so do I, to be honest. Okay, it's difficult to kind of be at home because one of the things which probably our spouses of this family, they may hear and may not find it good, that once you're at home, you're expected to cooperate at home, right? So it doesn't matter whether you're on a call or not. If you're done with a call and you think that, okay, I'll take 5-minute rest, and immediately, oh, your call is done. Now, please, can you please get this done? Now, though it's a very small aspect from a work from home standpoint, but it's really critical if we see that the population which was never doing it, and now they have to get into this mode of work from home, and different level of population with respect to organizational hierarchy have got different kind of responsibilities to execute, and different level of supervision is required for that. Now, fortunately, for WFM team, ownership has never been an issue. Integrity has never been an issue, and I think these are the two values that WFM stands for, has helped us cope up with this work from home. Because we don't see any delivery issues because people are not owning it up. We don't see any other issue because people have been kind of integrity has been highest in terms of the priority and agenda. From the standpoint of how we are, what we are changing, I think some of the methods that we are changing is the rules of engagement. That how do we become more engaging? How do we become more inclusive? And how do we basically initiate some of the platforms which are to interact, which is completely outside of the work environment? Okay, which used to happen before, but now it has become more prominent for us because the situation is demanding that we all need a social connect, and we are just ensuring that we take that opportunity of having some platform out of the regular work to have those connects. This is what the small steps that we are taking and we are doing. I think the other thing is from a long-term sustainability of this. I think there is a lot of skill set development that I think all of us would require. How do we manage the remote workforce? How do we keep them engaged? And basically, how do we take care of the well-being? I think that's really critical. Because when you see a person face to face, how that person is, doing, behaving, walking, talking, and reacting, responding, you can figure out, whether person is happy, sad, or what's the status. But it's very difficult to gauge all that over a video call. Okay. And how to develop those skill set wherein while you may not be able to get all the signals or symptoms, how you can still keep your workforce engaged. I think that is something we need to learn. It's unprecedented. It has not happened. That is something I feel that we all will have to learn and get better at it. If we are not kind of investing in this, I think this is a potential problem that we have to face going forward.
Switching a bit of a gear onto a subject which can, at times be considered a bit of good or bad both. Narayanan, having run talent acquisition for multiple companies and also now leading it for PwC, is recruitment a bad word in today's market? Right? And what's happening? What's happening on the, there's a large worry, and I'm speaking to you all as industry leaders here. There's a large worry lying that coming from a fact that there'll be hundreds of thousands of fresh grads which are expected to pass out of the colleges by around June or July, and whether they are being encouraged into an employment or this year is going to be pretty bad for them, and possibly by the time it moves to next year, the larger worry is that the fresh grads will come in, and this batch, lifelong is going to struggle in the industry on an overall note. Right? So, question to Narayanan, and then I think and guys, feel free to chip in into anybody's answer, not necessarily one person is to answer. It's a big problem which the country is looming up with. That what will happen to development scales this particular year, and specifically if it does not move up this year, will it actually lead to a larger social issue for because next year you guys jump behind the again fresh grads, right? And what will you do with these people who would have been very unfortunate to have got passed out of colleges in this particular year? And in your view,
No, actually, at least for us in right now, in the way PwC is working or thinking right now, the fresh grads programs is definitely on. We're bringing in everybody on board. In fact, we're just working towards onboarding them middle of next month as we talk about it. Now, we want to stick to the plan because a critical component of workforce plan, at least in the firm right now, and as consulting firm, we go to a lot of these schools and strategy schools and hire very specific people, either in the strategy consulting or in the domains and sectors and all that stuff. So there's no way that we can let go of those talent. It's very important to be able to build our pipeline and build our talent pool for the future. And so typically campus for us or fresh grads for us is the workforce for the future. So that program has a very different mindset, if you want to call it, or a very different outlook as compared to what's happening now and what probably we'll see for the next, let's say, a year or so if this continues in India form. But typically the campus grads program is more building a workforce for the future, right? And there's a lot of investments and stuff going in there. So that's what we're in today. But yes, our programs for next year, right? So typically it's around this time when we start talking about FY21 campus programs. And what should we do? What should our plans is? What our strategy is? What kind of composition of talent do we want? What kind of differential interventions do we need to bring in? How do we need to engage talent and all that stuff? Those programs seems to be taking a little bit of shift in time, maybe delayed by a few weeks or maybe delayed by a month or so, right? In terms of FY21 programs. And that's also getting tuned to the fact that what we're hearing from the government and various industries that the academic year itself might change for this year folks and all that stuff, right? There, you may not see them passing out in April and May of next year. You might see them passing out very little later, and then your cycle is changing across, right? So that's the status today. I think at least from the consulting firms, and I'd love to hear from Radhika in terms of what KPMG is thinking, but from that standpoint, the campus grads, at least the consulting firms, are a talent for the future, and it kind of is. But there is a significant focus or significant change from you to the lateral hiring. So in that sense, the recruitment of that or in the entire workforce plan, the recruitment part in this year or in the near term, in the next couple of quarters, so to say, has a very different role to play, right? And today, most of my recruiters are doing towards internal fulfillment as to see how we can look at where talent is. Are they undergoing their cross-training programs, upskilling programs? Are those running on track? How can we fast-track them? Or how can we ensure that people are used to learning online or learning on virtual classes? Skills are actually coming in. Right? People are going through a virtual program, right? They're used to sitting in class or sitting together and learning, and then we know. But then, are they really learning? Do they have the skills? Can we confidently deploy them on the next project that they have learned? Will the project deliverable not be taken care of it? But because the person learned everything online. Those are the areas we're working in today, and that's what we're working on today. So in that sense, what the company would have normally done is to go to the market and pick up a near ready fit, right, and not spend all this effort in doing this, pick up a ready fit and put it in here. That is kind of significantly reduced, and now we're focused on internal talent and then see how these people can be. So there's a lot of focus towards upskilling, cross-skilling, skilling people across sectors, across domains, sometimes even across technologies as possible, and then see where we can deploy them faster, right? And giving them the opportunity, giving internal talent the opportunity to be able to look at it. And that's the whole focus in today. So in that sense, recruitment is not in the driver's seat. It's probably taking a little bit of rest, and we'll probably come back in a quarter or so when the business and the economy looks a little better, right? And that's it.
So on the same line, a question to Manish. Lateral recruitment gets very nicely fueled up because there's attrition happening in some place. Right? It's a very nice method to it's a very self-sufficing business of running around place. People are tried, and then they then you hire for them. 80-90% is backfill positions, around the front 10% is right? Otherwise, it's a musical chair where people are just moving around. And suddenly, because of COVID, it looks like that this whole musical chair looks to have stopped. Right? Are you experiencing this? Is lower attrition a boon at this stage of time? And what are your recruiters doing? And how are they? What are they operating in today's scenario? Manish.
Rajeev, honestly speaking, if you see from a business perspective, what we are seeing is there is a shift in demand. The demand has not evaporated, right? To the sectors that we talk about. There are few sectors which we actually say in our healthcare business, the demand is actually going up. So we are not able to hire as many people as we wanted them to hire. We are asking for people to put in some more extra hours and things like that. So healthcare business in a third-party service provider domain is basically in a boom state, right? So is other business. So if I look at my mortgage industry and mortgage business, it's going up extremely well. Means we are acquiring new customers, we are acquiring new businesses, and it's moving in the right direction. In certain businesses, especially in the consumer domain businesses, which are directly driven by consumer markets, you are seeing a shift in demand. You're not seeing that the demand has evaporated, subscriber bases have gone out, and banks are closing down. It's nothing like that. It is just that the activity has come down, and because the activity has come down for a certain period of time, right? What is happening is you are sitting with some extra resources. Now, the call is any business which requires 3 to 4 months of training, right? You're holding on to those, finding better ways, and how can you get them work from home? How can we bring in demand? What are in geographies where governments are supporting? You have put some people on furlough and you're expecting them to come back to work. Surprisingly, people are coming back to work faster than we thought. Right? Most of our UK and US geographies, we are seeing people coming back to work. People who have been sent on furlough or given temporary, sort of retrenchment kind of a thing, they're back. Means we never took them off rolls. They just went on furlough. They're coming back to work, and they're coming back to work faster than we thought. As the economic activities, and especially in consumer domains, as soon as the activity starts picking up, whether it is lockdowns getting removed or in UK, if you see, as soon as the activities of football started, your volumes starts picking up again. So I think it is just that low attrition is still a great thing. So we don't want higher attrition. It is working. It is to our advantage. You definitely want to work with people who have been around. So that's absolutely there. I don't think that lower attrition at this point in time in third-party service providers is at all a concern. The concern that we have at this point in time, and I think that is also around 3-4 months of concerns that we are seeing, because people across the globe are learning to come back to carry out their life in a normal way. They might not be traveling, their vacations might have come down, and things like that might have come down. But normal lives are coming back. Consumerism is coming back, right? People are shopping, people are going out, people are doing everything that they're doing. Entertainment industry, if you see that vertical, means everything is good. People are sitting home, they're watching TV, right? So they're watching TV, they're asking. So I don't think very large impact from that perspective. Yes, I would agree with everybody on the panel that there's some amount of redeployment which is happening, because demand is shifting from one industry vertical to another industry vertical. So yes, cross-skilling, upskilling, those kind of things are happening. Fresh recruitments couldn't happen as much as we have wanted because of lockdowns. So yes, but as soon as things will start changing, I think I don't see a huge impact on contact center industry, for a long-term perspective. I don't see that if an organization was running with X thousand people, they would come down to 80% of that for this year. They will end the year with X thousand people again. Is what I foresee in for this year.
Thanks, Manish. Thank you. Thanks for the great perspective on this. It's all positive. At least till now, it's all very positive. It's not bad. A quick question on to Prashant. And Prashant, this comes from possibly my personal frustration in life, to literally say so. I've been hearing this word called bots for last 15 years. And I think for the last 7-8 years, I've been hearing AI and machine learning, like, as if it was a cakewalk literally right down somewhere. What's your feel? Is it a good management presentation to actually get depicted around, or is it and I deliberately didn't put this to Deepak because I knew that coming from an Amazon part of the stuff, it actually does. They live and die on a lot on that particular area. But coming closely back onto this, are you guys really seeing serious investments being made on technology? Right? Maybe in the area of workforce management, maybe in the area of recruitment, learning and development, right? Even bringing all this closer to delivery, and how much of our deliveries are actually getting automated, right? Or maybe possibly a non-human touch delivery, or we'll keep on having these hundreds and thousands of people into their delivery centers and keep on hiring them, right? How do you see this happening? Is it something that I die hearing it without any implementation, or do you really see some serious effort and money going around in this particular space?
So It was a panel in the morning also, and there I had expressed my view that I'm in favor of adopting technology, and I'd still be consistent to that. Touchless technology, digital is all around us, right? We have Alexas in our home. We have remote controls in our home that can do voice recognition. At work, we have chatbots. That have reduced a lot of our volume. So the technology is all around us, and as Deepak was rightly saying, right, we have to kind of upskill people. Some of the other panelists also say, right, apart from the soft skill upgradation, I think our team should also upskill on technology, embrace new technology, right? And new technology is definitely here to come and here to stay. Because innovation is sparked in situations like this, right? And if we don't innovate and innovate fast, you're going to be redundant in the industry. So that would be my advice. But having said that, does my team do a lot of investment? Talking as a workforce expert, to me, wherever you have an assumption going in, right, that's where you can apply analytics, that's where you can apply machine learning, whether it is AHT, whether it is shrinkages, why not, right? Why do we limit ourselves to only volume? So that's my take on your question on technology. We have to embrace technology.
The point where I'm coming from is, take a case of imagination that both KPMG and PwC will not have manpower and will have bots giving consulting. Possible, do we think like that? We talk about personalization in all the consumer stuff. My music list gets personalized, right? But my HR does not personalizes anything on his apps along with me, right? That's not done. Any of the systems I've typically seen, there's no personalization. If everybody has to fill a performance appraisal, it's the same appraisal which everybody has to fill. Personalizations are very limited associated with it, right? Are you guys seriously seeing some investments going into that area, right? Or as he said, it's like it's like the old wine being packed into a new bottle and again being repeated, and they're all workflow systems being talked about. And this time we'll toss it off slightly to Deepak, and then again I'll come back to you.
Sure, go ahead, Deepak.
So you are putting me into a difficult situation, Rajeev. I know it's intentional to do so. Let me see how I can answer it without getting into any trouble, so to say.
You can pass it down to Narayanan if you feel you're getting into a conflict.
No, what I can definitely say that if you talk from an investment standpoint and an intent standpoint for machine learning and AI, it's a big one, and it is something that I think as an Amazonian, I would vouch by. Okay, and now I'll hand it over to Narayanan.
Yeah, Narayanan, do you see that happening in an industry, or again, people make?
It's already starting to happen. I've seen at least in some places, that in PwC, in some other, as we call territories or other countries across the globe, there are machine learning solutions deployed for workforce management, specifically trying to combine learning and development and workforce management, resource management together, not necessarily workforce planning, where they're trying to see if a person has done that specific learning, he's deployed on a project, and what's been the project scoring after the project got over, and is there acceptance of learning and deployed resources, and see if we can do more of that learning across and all that stuff, right? So in that concept, there is a little bit going on. Obviously, there's a little bit of confidentiality, so I can't go into the details. But I mean, generally, I think there is technology started to come in already coming in, but it's in a lot of sense, it's not even the tip of the iceberg. I think just started to touch it. There's a whole new world awaiting us. And going back to what Prashant was saying, and I think it's really important for us that we start looking at it seriously and get the CIOs and CTOs to start looking at it and put some serious money behind it to be able to get things going.
Good. So with this, I think just being cautious of time, we can go into this discussion for hours. Right? It's like closer to all of our hearts. Right? With surprise. Obviously, keeping all of us very fearful of our health as well as our health of our near ones and dear ones. The businesses were
You're breaking out, Rajeev.
Rajeev, not able to hear you kind of fully.
Can you hear me?
Your picture is getting blurred, Rajeev.
I thought it's my network, so yeah, it's the same for me.
And that's AI taking revenge, Rajeev.
AI is taking revenge on me. Yes, can you hear me?
Good one.
Am I audible?
Yes, Rajeev, we're able to hear you.
Yeah, I deliberately switched off the webcam so as to ensure that the AI doesn't see me, right? Is it fair to say that during the time when COVID hit us by surprise, I think the industry scaled up to ensure that the impacts are as minimal as much as possible, and the WFM guys really did things more than what they were naturally expected to do with the company. And is it fair to say that going further, we don't see a gloom to that extent in business, and the teams are really getting geared up to prepare for possibly a much more positive and a brighter future coming on? Is it a fair assessment of the overall state?
Rajeev, let me take that. I think as human and as professionals, we always kind of hope for the best to happen. And I think the learning that we have from last 4 months gives us the confidence that we can handle the situation when it comes. And that's a hope, and I think it's a strong one that we won't have the same scenario replicating itself again. However, if we just, because I was listening some part of the conversation that contact center industry hasn't got hit as much, and consulting probably has got benefited out of it only. But there are core sectors which are actually have gotten pretty badly hit, and those core sectors are the sectors actually which fuel the economy to a great extent. Now, when we look at the long-term impact, if you look at the World Economic Forums and what their forecast for, they have already said that we are in the worst recession that we have ever faced, and we don't know that how long this recession is going to continue. While we in some pockets we see that story is not as gloomy and probably brighter, there are large other pockets wherein story is not really that good. And that's the sector which actually generates a lot of employment. And that employment fuels consumption. And the consumption fuels eventually what at the top layer of the economy, what we actually are seeing is not impacted as of now. My outlook is a bit gloomy. Sorry to kind of be a spoiler in the show, but I think we are in for a recession which is going to continue for at least a year and a half, and we will see the impact maybe in next 6 months, not now, because as of now people are surviving on their savings or some kind of activity which was there. But if you look at the core sector which has got hit, it has hit pretty bad. And like the impact of something bad has happened, we see after some time we are going to witness those impact in coming next 6 months or so. So I think hopefully we find a vaccine and COVID goes off, situation becomes better. But even if that happens, it was a well-oiled machinery which was running at a fast pace that has come to a grinding halt. Okay, some part of that machinery may be moving, but to get that machinery moving again at the same speed, it's going to take time. And I see that the time horizon to be at least 1.5 years. That's how I see it. And are we going to be prepared for it? I think we have done great in terms of making it happen. But we need to be kind of really prepared for running it as a long inning. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon that we have to run. That's my view on the whole thing.
Deepak, I think I agree with Deepak on this. I think it's going to be a long haul for sure. Some sectors have been really hit bad, and while teams have done remarkably well, and I think the crisis just showed the spirit of individuals when it comes to dealing with crisis and rising above the and going beyond what is expected. I think the recovery is going to be long haul. It's not going to be overnight, and it's going to be hard work.
Anything else? Thanks, Vasu. Really appreciate it.
So my think the way I look at it is it's going to be. I don't deny the fact that there will be impacts on revenues. The World Economic Forum, the way they measure things, I absolutely agree. It will be, 2019 will be back in 2021 or 22. That's quite possible. But I think these 3-4 months, which are really right, if you take them off from the scene, in my opinion, from the sectors that I look at, I am absolutely not aware about the steel sectors or a car sector per se or something of that sort. But if you look at from a services sectors perspective, the services sectors and the way things are going to come, I think that recovery is going to be pretty fast. I expect the recovery to start coming in from our businesses or the ITS sector and similar sectors, which are banking sector or sectors like this. I think we will see recoveries coming up pretty fast somewhere from Q3 this year. Especially if I look at the major consuming countries which are fueling IT and ITES, which is US and UK, the governments are pumping in too much of money to ensure that the consumerism is there. People are getting their salaries paid out. There are social services schemes which are in play, and hence the customers from those sectors are not getting as much impacted. Having said that, within India, yes, there would be domestic impact, which I think Deepak is mentioning about some core industry sectors which are impacted. Core good sectors, and the manufacturing is a sector which will take a hit and might take a bit longer to recover.
Actually, I kind of agree to what Deepak is saying, but at the same time, I also have a different perspective in the sense that I feel I'm not denying that it's not going to impact revenue, and I'm not denying that it's going to take a while before things get back, and if at all they get back. And our definition of getting back is also now evolving. But at the same time, I think because of this whole pandemic, our learning has gone from year to year, which we would have never done voluntarily, or we've been pushed to do it. And because of that, we will actually have different business models, different ways of doing the same thing that we were doing. And what one industry was impacted, the other industry may actually nullify that effect because the other one will go up. So there will be a mixed bag. But at the same time, like for example, manufacturing, if we are wise enough to pick up this opportunity and make in India big, then this is the opportunity. I mean, it is the opportunity to, if people are walking out of China and they're walking out of other big countries, this is the opportunity. So it actually depends on, how we take what we take. I'm not gloomy about it. I'm not overly excited about it, but I think it's going to be somewhere in between, a mixed bag. Some will gain and some will lose. But there's a very good chance that from a learning perspective and from an overall skilling perspective, India will be, or for that matter, the world will be doing much better.
So my, my own personal perspective on it is, it's going to be very important for workforce management professionals to be very, very heavily wired with business strategies. The typical isolation view sometimes which professionals can take may not really be appropriate in today's environment. It requires them to be very, very glued in with their business strategies and comes to work. Sectors which may grow maybe much faster, and there may be sectors which will degrow or possibly go to an extent which is going to be painful for them. Reskilling is a good concept. Some skills can be managed, some reskilling can be managed. Right? You really cannot convert an orthopedic to a neurosurgeon in day one when you really move the person aside. Right? So there are times when you have to be very cautious about it. And my own experience has been on that particular front is that, it would mean some painful exits in certain places, and it will also mean some, hiring also happening around in various places to be able to balance this grade out. Right? It's not going to be so easy. and it's going to put a lot of effort on the planning and decision making of a lot of leaders to work through on that area. The revival may take some time. It's not that good part is not that bad, right? But the tough part of it is that from a workforce management professionals perspective, right, they will have to really scale up to take much more leadership and macro view to life also into their plannings and execution, rather than taking a very tactical view in terms of it. Right? So that would be that's how at least I see it. And I think it was in my mind really wonderful conversation. I deliberately did not want to talk on things which are very operative. I'm sure you guys would have done it into multiple sessions. The intent of this session was largely to keep it macro and largely to keep it much closer to business, right? And to put in a message through that the scalability of workforce management professionals in future will depend largely not only on the tools and the technologies and the analytics we do, but how much of the business sense as well as we take it to the tables, and how can we literally move ourselves up in our thinking. And you can be an advisor to some of the senior business leaders into your company, right? So that's going to be largely the success of this whole function, and at I see in days to come. Right? On that note, before we do a vote of thanks to each other, can we ask Shiva to open a line to all our participants who have been patiently listening to us? And let's see between all of us as panels, can we really answer some of their questions?
Sure, Rajeev. Yeah. I requested all of them to raise a question with the hand up. I see a few of the hands here.
Any of our first set of questions? I'm sure. Otherwise, it looks like everybody is keeping you talking among ourselves.
I'm just looking at the questions that are in. Okay, there's a question asked by Chandrasekhar. He says that in India, every industry wants to protect business by removing workforce and survive in business. But on the contrary, each one of them are whose job is lost, customers and consumers for same other industry. If this mindset is not broken, how economic cycle will run? This is a question by Chandrasekhar.
I lost hearing you in the last bit. I'm not sure if the other panel members were able to hear that.
Shiva, could you kind of repeat the question? I kind of lost you in the last few minutes.
I think we lost Shiva.
If I heard the question right, I think it was largely that there's pain in the organizations where people are being taking off in order to manage the short-term goal of survival. Right? And while the question from more or less the audience was that why can't we take a long-term approach towards people? That's what at least I sense in the question, whatever I actually heard. Anybody would like to comment on that?
I frankly couldn't hear. I don't know if others are clear. Maybe it's my connection.
So are you back? So at least the question which I heard, and let's try framing it back, was that painful conversations being taken about letting go people in order to keep the ship sailing, while the person in the audience felt that one should take a long-term view on people rather than doing a hiring and a firing decision. What's your opinion on it? In case any one of you want to take it, or in case you feel that being a part of a corporate brand, you find it difficult. I'm not attached to any, so I can be as much verbal about saying anything whatever is required. So I'll first leave it on to the panel in case you want to make a comment on this.
So let me take that.
But also, Vasu, right?
Rajeev, it was me, but I thought someone else was also answering. This was Deepak.
No, but go ahead.
Okay, so I was finding some issue with my connection, so I'm just reconfirming the question that some companies are laying off people just to sail through. Is it the right strategy or not? I think is that the question.
Yeah.
Okay. Now it depends upon whose perspective you are looking at it from. From an employee standpoint, obviously it's the wrong thing to do. from an employer standpoint, unless and until it's a dire situation, wherein say it's a matter of survival, and they have to let go few to save few. Okay, this decision may seem right. Now, why I'm talking about both the perspective, because we must look at both the angles before we think that it is right or wrong. From an employer standpoint, to survive for longer period and be able to help in the long run could be a right decision in the short term. From an employee standpoint, may not be executed. Just think from that standpoint.
Anyone else who wants to take a stab on this question? It's a slightly loaded question.
See, yeah, it is, but I wouldn't want to comment on how what the companies have done is good or bad at this point. But I think the companies will learn from these, especially the small SMEs, who have been having this issue where they're kind of laying off people. They will learn from this experience and make sure their strategies will be there. So I think the future is good, but I think the situation now it is what it is, and I'm sure from their point of view, taking a larger employee group into mind before kind of laying off anybody. But at the same time, it also means that we as individuals should be constantly kind of upskilling ourselves and making sure we are market relevant. And that's where even if someone kind of loses his job, it shouldn't be difficult for them to become a gig in an environment like this, or find something soon enough. So I understand people losing jobs usually tend to be depressed, but I think we should keep a optimistic note there, that there are opportunities even in this environment, and there are learnings for people who have failed. We should simply move forward with it.
Anybody else on this?
I just want to add one thing over here. We often see that, and it's a paradox. Companies want people, they are not able to hire. People want job, they are not able to get a job. Okay, so irony of the situation is the problem is of the skill set. That as soon as the skill set match happens, this problem can be solved to a great extent. And what Prashant mentioned, I just want to endorse that point that just see that how you are upscaling yourself, and that goes for all of us as well, not only for people. Just keep upscaling yourself so that you remain relevant.
I think I've been experiencing this conversation through multiple people, and I think I would put it across in multiple places. First thing, if that company had been protecting and preserving cash or years earlier to this, I think they are lesser found to take a painful decision, because they can absorb a year or 2 years of downfall. Right? And sometimes the older strategies of the companies typically would fall in front of them at the stage of time. It's not a question of right or wrong. It's a question of what bet they took in earlier years and where does it lie. So today, cash-rich companies are much more protected towards people, and cash-less companies today have certain issues with their businesses, have a problem to sit down on the table, and that's reality. Right? So I can't say much about it, but that's the reality. Like, they can't pay a payroll, they can't pay a payroll. Let's be honest about it. Right? The second part is some organizations have kind of taken a strategy, which is instead of letting go a set of people, they've taken a volunteer hit across the board, right, in order to ensure that in this tough time, just take it together. Right? That's a very socialist approach. Many companies don't believe in it. Some people believe in it. Right? So that's the second bit which is available. Right? The third thing is actually largely which bothers me is for the recruitment community. Right? That when this person who's been let go goes with a resume to a recruiter, right? And who are actually looking for a person, would they consider these job breaks, right, as a performance issue, or would it consider it as a job break as not a performance issue of a guy or a person, right? And they would really consider it as a scenario which possibly maybe some bad strategies even at the top management level may have led down to that particular scenario, right? Okay, and I think that's the maturity in the recruitment world which is required right now, and that's not what India is pretty used to, right? Some other countries are pretty used to. They're used to job breaks. They're used to going back after job breaks, right? Okay. But what we may sense now is that India may have to get mature as a country, and I'm sure so do other developing nations may have to get mature as a country, that job breaks can be by choice. Job breaks can be by nature of the organizational decisions, right? That need not necessarily be a way to really look at an individual to work toward that. And obviously, as what you rightly said, from an individual perspective, what the individual has to do best is is to remain relevant with the new skills which are coming in, right, and try to really upgrade himself or herself so that they can move ahead. So it's a whole ecosystem which possibly may have to look at it. It's not about and from my point of view, if I typically say today, when I literally look at an individual job, I'm able to look at it much more different perspective than what I used to look at it 10 years back. So that would be my thought. So are you back? And do we?
Yes, Rajeev. I have other question. That question is for Radhika. Yeah. This question was asked by Prachi. She's asking that best practices around behavioral skill set, keeping our RMs team agile in meeting and achievable targets, around utilization and bench management, especially the deployment of our visa resources, taking into consideration of deployment, signing of new business and customers working to restructure the expected solutions and business models.
Okay. If I understood this question right, I think what she's asking is about best practices for the RM team to help achieve utilization targets in these different business models. Is that right?
Yep, that's right. Yes.
Okay. Okay, yeah, so I think the first thing that we as the RM team or the resource management or WFM team needs to do is to basically get up and understand our business a lot better, because there is a tendency that this team sits outside and does metrics and pulls reports and says, okay, this is your utilization, or this is your bench, and this is your headcount or attrition or whatever. But we don't really probably think of getting into it to understand our skills, our business requirements, business demands better. And that is the need of the hour, according to me, which we really need to get inside and understand where is the challenge, what is it that you can do, because only if you understand the business very well, the one that you're supporting, you will be able to optimize people across better. And in a consulting firm, I'm talking about different skills available. Not see in contact centers or in BPOs, etc. More or less the skills are similar for the people you're handling. But in a group where your skills are so varied and varied across levels, varied across groups, that is one of the key things where you need to understand for better optimization, moving them across. But at the same time, also literally fine-tuning yourself from a data accuracy perspective, from a tool update, like whatever tool you follow, so you make sure that you're automating things, you're reducing your manual work, you're actually enhancing your own team and your own role, because this is literally the backbone of a business, literally in every aspect per se. Because if a good resourcing is done, and especially when bench management, like you have a lot of people suddenly sitting on bench and suddenly wanting to say, okay, is there anything for me to do, even maybe like an RFP or a BD work or anything? People get frustrated, so do you, but that is the bridge that a good resource manager has to mend, So that is where I think we really are the key people at this point in time, which is like a fulcrum holding all separate businesses together. Integration, collaboration, understanding of business as well, bench management, or people connect, continuous connect. I know it's right now we don't have this, but we probably can. You can think of doing a research or write a white paper or something like that. that different kind of connect, and keeping your eyes and ears open that any opportunity anywhere else comes, maybe you can try this out. That trying again and again and again will probably, you'll hit the target sometime. That's probably what you can do.
Thanks, Radhika.
I think that's about it as far as question is concerned. With this, I think we can conclude the panel discussion. I think Jay said that he could not join due to some problem. He's going to join us for his keynote speech sometime back today in the day. His session is scheduled at 8 o'clock. I think he's going to come back by then. Thank you so much, Rajeev, Ved, Prashant, Manish, Radhika, Narayanan, and Vasudev, also Deepak. It's a great, insightful session, and we're going to have a couple of more discussions on this area. When we have questions from the audience, we're going to share these questions with you, and we'll take this forward.
Thank
you. In fact, I had a few questions I withheld in the interest of time, but they're very engrossing, and Rajeev, you moderated superbly, and
the panel is very cooperative. Panel could have been very, very dangerous on me.
Yes, of course. Awesome moderation. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Thanks everyone. Thanks to the panel as well as the speakers.
Thanks,
Thank you. Thanks,
Thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Thank you.